Yesterday, I shared about a situation a while back in which I took a risk on something that didn't turn out quite the way I had hoped. And I had shared rather than just being disappointed, it felt crushing. And at the root of that was a toxic desire to want to people please and want to gain the approval of others. I used to think that failing was the worst thing that could happen in life. But now I think it's not taking Holy Spirit inspired risks for fear of what others might think. See, when we feel like we have to be perfect or uphold this type of reputation, what it does is it leads to living out our faith in a very restrictive, overly cautious, overly safe type of way. Rather than having a vision of who Jesus is and allowing that to inform our discipleship, we have this vision of people who we want to gain their approval, and that begins to form our vision. And that can be very toxic. So how do we overcome that? And I believe that one of the ways we do this is simply by being transparent about our weaknesses and our struggles. What this does is it begins to break down the intentional and unintentional ways that we have begun to relate to others in a way in which we are trying to maintain this perception of being perfect, or this perception of being someone that we are not. Listen to Paul's words in 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verses 8 through 10. In referring to his thorn in the flesh, he says this: I prayed to the Lord 3 times that he might take it. And yet he said, my grace is sufficient for you. My power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will all the more gladly boast about my weaknesses, so that the power of Christ may rest upon me. He says, I will boast in my difficulties. I will boast in my persecutions. I will boast in insults. I will boast in persecutions, so that the power of Christ may rest upon me. Now, I know for me, it seems so counterintuitive to think how true power, how true strength really comes in living out our faith. I've definitely fallen into the trap of thinking that true power, true strength, true success come by living a perfect life or having it all together. Yet if we listen to the words of Paul, he's saying that no, it's in our weaknesses that the power of Christ actually rests upon us. And this is liberating, to think that we don't have to live for the approval of others to have power rest upon us. We don't have to live for perfection for that power to rest upon us. When we are slaves to what other people think of us, it leads to this type of thinking where when we're standing in front of someone, we're constantly bending to how can we impress them, or how can we gain their approval, rather than bending to the prompting of the Holy Spirit. And this leads to a lack of authenticity. And the ironic thing is in our desire for approval and to impress others, we're actually nullifying our ability to truly be present and serve them, because it's often from a place of deep humility and in a place in which our weaknesses are transparent that we become the greatest service to others. And so my hope, my encouragement to you as well as to myself, is that we won't try to walk in this power any longer by trying to live perfectly or uphold this reputation, but rather we will learn from Paul and realize that it is in our weaknesses the power of Christ will rest upon us.